From the Journal of Knight Captain Dietrich Menge, 15th of March, year 123 of the Blessed Age, Blüdhafen. Our journey to Blüdhafen to retrieve the dangerous magical dagger, guarded by the Paladin chapter, was supposed to take us approximately 2 weeks. We were to make our stops in various small towns and villages to resupply and rest, and to contact and visit the Paladin chapters in Forley and Voljo to find out about any news in the area. However, upon receiving the letter from the Blüdhafen chapter, I became burdened with suspicions. I suspect it was Zuthar's divine intervention that guided my intuition, but the message left me with great unease. I was of the opinion that their chapter handled the entire cult ordeal very badly, and they were too carefree with their study of the corrupting dagger. With Knight Commander's blessing, I decided to take more than twice the requested amount of men, and limited our stops on the journey to only the most necessary ones, so that we may arrive to the city as soon as possible. Even accompanied by no less than 4 dozens of my paladin brothers, the closer we grew to Blüdhafen, the more grew the feeling of sourness and apprehension I was afflicted by. It was on the night of 1st of March that the lights of the city appeared on our horizon, but there was something wrong with the image. Even though shrouded in strange unnatural darkness, there was no mistaking the revelation that those were not fires of torches and lanterns, but those of destruction. We quickly urged our horses into a gallop to find out what had happened and what we could do to aid the citizens. As we approached, however, we noticed that there was something more sinister than fire at hand in the city. The chapter cathedral was malformed and infested by some hideous powers, and screams and sounds of battle were heard from inside the city walls. We arrived to the city gate and found a mass of depraved and mutated figures, shambling around the streets and making their way towards the market square. We made our way through these beasts until we reached the square, where we saw a huge group of survivors encircled by these murderous creatures. Still on horseback, we charged into the enemy's back lines with our full force, and we started trampling and cutting them down in dozens. Great anger and anguish consumed my mind when I realized that some of these twisted abominations used to be my brothers, and were trying to kill these civilians with desecrated artifacts of our holy order. The enemy wasn't prepared for our assault, and we swiftly eradicated a vast bulk of their forces, and made some breathing room for the surviving defenders. It was there that I met the leader of the resistance, Guard Lieutenant Wismar of Blüdhafen, and I was told of what had happened there. It was made clear to me that we may have pushed the monsters back, but as long as the cathedral was standing, new creatures would be pouring from it. The lieutenant made a good impression on me, and I saw that we were of the same mind. We needed a direct attack at the heart of this corruption. The corrupted abominations we fought reminded me of undead in a way, and from my experience, mindless creatures of this kind often do not survive once the catalyst or source of their power and animation is destroyed. It was obvious that my paladin powers were of great effect against them, and so even with overwhelming numbers, a group of us could make our way through their ranks and end this once and for all. It is from these miscalculations that I should take example. I thought the enemy similar to undead, and presumed that fighting them would be no different. I ignored the nuances and relied too heavily on my holy powers to be devastating against these foes. Had I taken some more time to analyze and think about these opponents, perhaps more of my brothers could have survived. We paladins exist to protect the ordinary folk from the ever-changing arcane and occult powers, and fighting like an inadaptable blunt instrument only weakens us. perhaps only being taught how to fight magic and monsters, but not understanding how magic works is an archaic approach that needs to be changed. I will share these thoughts with the Knight Commander when I return to Suddendorf. But let's return to the massacre. I ordered 20 of my paladins to stay with the survivors and help against the onslaught, while I, Viesma, and my remaining knights would strike at the cathedral. We used the window of opportunity created by our cavalry charge to quickly make our way to the former place of worship. We fought some enemies on our way there, but they proved no challenge to our organized righteous wrath, and soon we were standing before the gates of the blasphemous building where this nightmare began. Had I known what we would find there, even Zuthar himself couldn't convince me to enter the wretched place. I will not describe what happened there in hope that the knowledge of this event will die with us. Some scars can afflict more than a body, and some things should remain unknown and forgotten.
On the Blüdhafen anomaly, a study by Arcanist Rivers Arvan, written in the year 142 of the Blessed Age. It has been almost 20 years since a great tragedy that is laconically known as the Blüdhafen Massacre, but its enigma has been haunting the scholarly community to this very day. It was an incident without precedent, and the deeper we investigate it, the less we understand. In general, there are only very few accounts of what really happened, but trying to get to the core of the problem is practically impossible, as only 2 individuals survived and witnessed the climax in the Paladin Cathedral: Duke Viesma of Blüdhafen and Knight Commander Dietrich Menger, both of whom remain adamant about remaining silent on the matter. Most of the scholarly community, me included, reached the conclusion that due to many factors, the mystery is so obfuscated that trying to elucidate it would be a waste of precious time. Up until recently, that was the consensus, but a few months ago I noticed that strange rumors began circulating among my colleagues. Apparently, the huge crater that now embellishes the area where the Grand Paladin Cathedral and its surroundings used to stand is now the source of a very eerie phenomenon. I, as one of the few in our empire who, on a theoretical level, understands magic and arcane, thought that such a rumor is worth investigating, and I made my way to the port city of Blüdhafen. Even though I knew what to expect, the black crater in the center of the city and the black ominous remains of the cathedral and its surroundings took me by surprise. I always assumed that it was something akin to a giant explosion that destroyed the cathedral, but it didn't look like any explosion I have ever seen. The edges and walls of the crater were perfectly smooth and even more intriguing were the houses. They were not destroyed by the explosion as I thought originally, but instead they looked like something took a great even bite out of them. The edges of the houses were black as if from fire, that's true, but they weren't charred or burned. It was more like they changed into obsidian without a single dent and imperfection. Even here, on the edges of the crater, I could feel something strange emanating from the middle and something being wrong with my senses. I, for the love of Zuthar, couldn't grasp what was wrong, but then it hit me. It was the silence. I couldn't hear a single sound from the outside while I was here. No birds, no murmur, no sounds of the city, only me and my heartbeat. And every sound I made only sounded like a distant echo. My eyesight was playing tricks as well, always seeing something in the corner of my eye, but nothing was ever there when I turned my head. I also looked like I was seeing double, for whenever I moved my hand, I could see the blur of my movement, an effect similar to the ones caused by various fungi and herbs. I decided to place my apparatus for arcane research here, so I could find if there is any magical residue here, or perhaps if some spell is still in effect. Everything was negative, even things that weren't meant to be. This entire place was devoid of magic, and not just the synthetic magic left by spells, but the small traces of natural flowing magic that should be found everywhere were not here either. It was like this place didn't exist, devoid of sound, devoid of life, devoid of magic. For all intents and purposes, this place was dead. I thought about the events of the massacre and tried to find some conclusion as to why this place is how it is, but I can only theorize. Considering that out of the powerful attack force that attacked the cathedral and destroyed the source of the evil, only two survived the events, it can be assumed that some kind of battle took place here. Normally I would assume that this was the result of a powerful life-destroying spell, but that would not explain the other abnormalities. Perhaps the paladins used their powers and lives to create a colossal magic dispel, but again, something didn't compute. My last theory is the most implausible one, but also one I personally find most likely. As is known, the city was overrun by so many monsters that no one had any idea where they came from. It was only known that they came from the cathedral. This could mean that they came here from a different plane of existence or reality, one that works differently than the ones we know of. What if either due to sheer number of summons, or due to deliberate effort by some higher entity, the entire place was supposed to become a permanent gateway into a different plane of existence, but the process was stopped before it could finish, and so this place remains only a closed doorway that is neither here nor there. What if those shapes I see through the corner of my eye are the creatures on the other side, waiting for the doorway to open? Would that mean that the source of this corruption wasn't defeated but only sealed away? And would it mean that if I can see these shapes on the other side, they can see and observe us? What if they could see us the entire time? What if the wall between our realities isn't a wall, but a one-way mirror? A mirror imperfectly sealed, so that it may still be possibly penetrable by sounds and whispers.
A letter from Duke Wiedmar of Blüdhafen to Knight Commander Dietrich Menge, deciphered 17th of January, year 143 of the Blessed Age, Blüdhafen. Dietrich, I too have read the studies of that scholar, and I as well am disturbed by his findings. From what I've heard, he was labeled delusional by his peers, but they haven't seen what we have. If you remember what the thing in the cathedral was capable of, wouldn't it make perfect sense that it wanted to create a gateway between our world and some dark beyond? And wouldn't that explain from whence the dagger had come, and why it wasn't in the cathedral? I agree that getting the arcanist to examine it, under heavy supervision of course, we know what happened with the dagger, would be the best course of action, but alas, I bring bad news. Before I could contact this great scholar, that fool Montagnon provided him safe haven at his court, and made him one of his court advisors. I don't hold any grudge against Montagnon, but he's the last person I want to deal with when concerning something occult. Damn that fool and his bloody curiosity. So getting the arcanist is no longer a sound option, and I won't trust some random researcher with such an important thing. So it seems that until something changes, we must continue to stay vigilant, for if that study is correct, then we can be certain that the things will return someday. But you know what gives me nightmares more than the creatures returning to our empire? Them appearing in neighboring lands. The Dracnian war is taking its toll as it is, but what if in addition to that, the dwarves got corrupted by these eldritch powers? I hold no love for the dwarves, and our truce is barely holding as it is, but they at least take a brunt of the Dracnian attacks. If their holds were to become these gateways to this eldritch dimension the scholar talked about in his work, I don't even want to think about that. Maybe we should warn the dwarves and elves and others, but I fear that if they saw how terrified we are of these horrid entities, they might try to use them to their advantage, not heeding our warning of their terrible influence. Ever since our most holy emperor honored me, a lowborn, with the title of the Duke of Blüdhafen, I have tried to bring back and maintain order in the duchy. The city prospers, and it is now mostly inhabited by those who were not here during the massacre.
Everyone acts like this accursed remnant of it that remains in the center of the city doesn't exist and everything is going as it should. But as long as that item is within the walls of my city, and I know almost nothing about it, I will never feel that my people are safe. With the help of the restored Paladin chapter, we've only uncovered little about what it does. This one doesn't seem to hold any corruptive mind-controlling influence, but even then, anyone who comes into contact with it is locked for at least a few months, without any physical encounters with anyone else, and is examined for any signs of indoctrination. The device cannot be damaged by any means we have at our disposal, it seems, and reacts to the so-called attunement process which your paladins explained to me. They told me that it looks like the item enhances their powers once they use them through the device, but that they do not fully understand. If that is so, perhaps that's why the explosion happened once you severed the connection between the gatekeeper and his device. It was full of his power and ready to be used, but then it lost the source and the power dispersed chaotically, resulting in that explosion. If that is so, I am even less cheerful of this item being in my city, seeing as it had already caused such devastation before, but I understand that it needs to be kept here. I know that your condition doesn't allow you to travel much now, but I hope we shall meet again soon. There are other things that need to be discussed that I won't entrust into a letter, no matter if it is ciphered or not. May Zutar be with you, friend. I believe we shall need him soon.
So that's all the story for now. If you like what we do, you can also find us on our website, link in the description, where we post all of our homebrew and other stuff, including collaborations with other various talented people. If you are feeling generous, you can also check out our Patreon, where we give various rewards for monthly subscriptions. To end this with, we would like to give an enormous thanks to all of our patrons. You guys are amazing. So that would truly be everything for now. Thank you all for watching, and we hope you'll be up for another round next time.